You see, there are still faint glimmers of civilization left in this barbaric slaughterhouse that was once known as humanity. Indeed, that's what we provide in our own modest, humble, insignificant... You know, fuck it. Fuck you.
Greetings, friends. What's up, and welcome to another installment of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am welcoming back my friend Matt Wilcock, guitarist for Werewolves, the Antichrist Imperium, Shotgun Mistress, and more. An absolute legend of a man, and I am very, very pleased to have him back on the show to talk about the new Werewolves record, From the Cave to the Grave. We also spoke about and got another update on the forthcoming Antichrist Imperium record, and then we also spoke about things near and dear to our hearts, like the classic 1987 film Predator, and our shared love of Guns N' Roses, amongst many others. That's going to be coming your way shortly. Straight after that chat, I am also going to be talking about some new music, and since I already spoke about the new Werewolves record last week, this week the honor falls to the new Verberis record, another Antipodean band who've just put out a fantastic record called Adumbration of the Veiled Logos on Norma Evangelium Diaboli. You'll hear what I think of that album after my conversation with Matt, and then of course I will also be pouring through the latest metal news headlines to save you the trouble of having to do so yourself. I will be listening to and giving you my first impressions of some new music, and we'll see what else comes up that I may want to pass comment on. It's been a reasonably busy week in the world, and fairly certain that I'll have a few things to say about some of what has happened. If you are new to the podcast, make sure that you hit the subscribe button on your platform of choice, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Apple, or wherever else you consume podcasts on. Also, make sure that you follow the show on social media, and if you are a true die-hard fan of Into the Necrosphere and you want to rep your colors on your streets, then head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store and pick out a t-shirt, a hoodie, a jogger, or whatever else catches your fancy. And then finally, when you are done with Into the Necrosphere for this week and you feel yourself lost, confused, and prone to giving yourself over to drugs and a raving, rampant masturbation addiction, fear not, because my brothers in the podcasting apocalypse have you covered. So make sure that you check out and subscribe to Everything Went Black with Mike Hill of Tombs, Necromaniacs, also featuring Mike Hill, as well as Iblis Manifestations and the Horrible 666 podcast. With that out of the way, please join me in welcoming back to the podcast my friend Matt Wilcock.
Hey.
How's it going, young blood?
Good, man. Can you hear me? Is it all good?
Yeah, sound is great. Where's
Nice.
that? Where them fucking beady eyes of yours?
Oh, you can't see me. Fucking hell, eh? Hang on. I'm such a fucking caveman. I can't. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, nice to see you again, mate.
Yeah, man. You too. What's going on?
Well, busy as hell at work. I have also started a new exercise regimen, which I've been doing for the last month or so. As I mentioned this on the NAS episode as well, I think I came very close to tearing the muscles in my forearms when I was doing a deadlift a little while back, and it's still killing me. But yeah, no, I mean, other than that, everything's coup de la. The podcast is going well. Work's, like I said, super busy. Training is going well. It's hot here for, we get our 4 weeks of heat. So it'll be, people will be in a good mood for a month or so before we go back to misery. And like I always find when you hit the middle of the year, that downward slope to Christmas is pretty rapid. So, but yeah, man, how's it going with you? Big things happening. We're a week away from the cave to the grave being released, and the reviews are already really positive.
Yeah, it's good, man. I've been, I think, like literally all the things that haven't happened in the last, the last 2 years have all pretty much started happening as of I guess a couple of months ago, just playing shows like between Bremelin and Shocker Mistress and like Werewolves. Like I've just been like, pretty much constantly fucking either at work or sort of out on the road, like playing shows or fucking flying somewhere or doing something. And yeah, so it's been busy, man. Like pretty tired, to be honest. I haven't you know, with the rock band, so we just finished a bunch of 5 or 6 weeks of like long weekends worth of shows. So I've had to sort of juggle work and sort of switch around certain days and fucking take some certain holiday days and all that. And you know, for like maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturdays or whatever it's been, we've been out on the road just playing shows and getting back into that sort of thing again. So yeah, I feel like I haven't fucking slept in for like forever because I'm either getting up and going to work or I'm getting up and getting a fucking plane, or you know, or we're getting on the road sort of early or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's been busy, man. You know, everything's really cool. It's great to be out doing shit again and playing shows. And we played me and Dave played in a Bremelin gig a couple of months back. I think it was in March or April. April, I think it was. And that was killer. That was like the first. So I think that was the first metal show that I'd played in fucking 2 years or something. I can't remember if there was anything else, but yeah. So it was the first like, you know, death metal show that I played in ages anyway. And it was a killer show. It was really good.
Was it? I would assume it was stand up as opposed to seated, because I saw.
Yeah.
I was about to say I saw the seated game was becoming reasonably popular in Australia. I don't think it ever really happened here, because once they caught Boris Johnson partying it up in the backyard, all of the restrictions and everything very quickly disappeared.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, seated shows, especially when it comes to metal, I couldn't.
Yeah, I think the Dark Mofo show, which is like the sort of festival type thing, which was in Tasmania, I think they had seated. I mean, that event in itself is that's a peculiar sort of event anyway. It's like a week or so long, and it's got all weird sort of art installations and all sorts of strange things. And they usually get sort of, I think, kind of off the cuff sort of bands, like things that are a bit bands that are a bit left of field, you know. So the Amenta played it this.
Yeah, I know about that.
This year, or I don't even fucking remember when it was. I think it was this year. Anyway, maybe it was last year. Yeah, it's 2021. It's all just a fucking blur. But yeah, so the Amenta played, and they played to a seated crowd, and yeah, apparently it was all right, but I think that's more so because of the nature of the event. Like,
yeah,
you know, if it was just at one of the local sort of venues or a pub or whatever, then it's like, you know, this doesn't really sort of work. But because that event is a bit odd anyway. I think that their sort of vibe was pretty cool, actually. You know, people sort of sat back and were bombarded with you know, the Amenta's sort of noise that they make. So,
I was about to say, though, if any band is going to be able to do that kind of seated show and pull it off well, it would be them, just by the nature of their music. And I remember Kane and Tim spoke to me about that, actually, when they were on the podcast. But I would say, just broadly speaking, I couldn't imagine myself. I mean, again, different strokes for different folks. I couldn't imagine myself wanting to go to a seated metal show. Like, you know, if I were to see Werewolves live or something like that, you know, you need to be standing for that. I mean, I'm not, you know, in the middle of the pit anymore. I never really was, to be honest with you. I think the only times I've actually joined the fray in the last couple of maybe the last 2 decades was once at Despised Icon, and then for the entirety of the last Biohazard show that I saw. I don't think many people enjoyed the fact that I had joined the fray for that one.
The weight ratio might have been a bit, you know.
Maybe.
I the heavyweight mixing with the middleweight, so to speak.
That's pretty much what it ended up being. You have people like jumping up against you, and they just sort of drop. You kind of look like what just happened. But very exciting stuff about Werewolves playing live. I mean, I spoke to Sam about that when he was on. What kind of, what was sort of the tipping point to make you guys decide it was time to take the show on the road?
We talked about it, in the early days, quote unquote, i.e., 3 years ago or something. We had talked about it, but it was off the cards straight away because of COVID and all that sort of bullshit. But I think we talked about it last year maybe, and given that we were still in the throes of like, well, it's not really worth fucking booking anything because, is it going to get cancelled? Is it going to happen? No one knows what the fuck's going on. Can we fly anywhere? Because that was the other thing as well, Sam being in a different state. If it had been, if all three of us were just in the same state and we booked something like just in Victoria, then it would have been cool, because worst case scenario, it gets cancelled, whoop-de-doo, there's no sort of flights involved, there's no real problems. But once it was looking pretty comfortable that shit was, borders were going to open and we could travel freely and not have to worry too much about things getting cancelled at the last minute, we were like, oh, well, yeah, let's, we'll think about it, and we started rehearsing. Well, me and Dave rehearsed first. So the first time the first rehearsal that we had for Werewolves was after the album 3 was done. And that was the first time we'd played that material together. So we hadn't actually jammed any of the songs together before. And, it was great. Like it was on straight away. It's like, fucking, well, that's turned out pretty well. Let's get Sam over and we'll have a group effort and see how that goes. And that was he came over and we did a bunch of things. We had our annual sort of catch up, which we do once a year, I guess. Just did a photo sort of shoot for all the new press stuff. Did the film clip, did the Harvest of the Skulls clip, and just rehearsed over like a 2-day period. So it was, and because it all just worked, like it sounded cool straight away. It's like, well, fucking hell, if we sound this okay already, then fuck it, let's book some shows and see what happens. So that was sort of the, I guess the tipping point. We got together and it sounded pretty cool and we could do it, and it's like, well, book some shows. So we had one, and then we had another one, and then so a few extra things got booked. So at the moment, I think we've got 4 shows booked for this year. The vibe is we'll see how they sort of go, and if they go well, which they should, there's no reason why anything should be a negative with it. If they go well, then we'll probably talk about taking maybe the next step, whatever that may be. We're not entirely sure sort of what's going to happen or what we're going to do, but I guess the whole thing with the Werewolves sort of vibe has been do something, then do something else, and if it works, then take the next step. So, if we could do an album and it worked, we'll make another one. So we've kept on making albums. If we can, it'll be the same with shows probably. Like if we pull off the first show and it comes across well, and then we do the rest of them, then it'll be like, all right, well, let's sort of see what could potentially be on the cards, in the next year or so. So it's exciting times. Albums, the reviews have sort of just started sort of coming through, and they're all quite funny. People get it wrong all the time. Everyone thinks we're a fucking technical death metal band. It's like there's nothing technical about us.
Well, I would say not technical by your standards, because I can't imagine some goof just picking up a guitar and playing the stuff that you play. You have a certain dexterity to your playing, but I was thinking as you were talking about, playing live and stuff like that. Is it fair to say that Werewolves is the most, at least in the metal scene, the most kind of widely and loudly acclaimed project that you've done?
Maybe in a sense. I mean, obviously, I think there was a period of time, like all them fucking years ago, when I played with the Berserker, where there was a real buzz around that band.
Yeah.
So it was around, me and Sam have talked about this before, actually, around the time of Dissimulate, when that album came out, there was something about what was happening in that band at the time. There was like 4 people that were all sort of, eyes forward, focused on the prize as such. And, we went out and we did a lot of stuff. And there was quite a bit of hype around that band. It was kind of it was short-lived, I guess. I mean, we spent 6 months on the road touring like constantly, which is pretty full on, especially sort of for back then, So there was a lot of buzz around that. Obviously, playing with Ak, like they're a great band, and there's always a buzz around Ak. Like every time there's been an album release, both before and after, my time with them. There's always a fucking air of excitement around that band and some hype. So I think probably the thing with Werewolves is it's just probably just the fact that we've sort of just done it so quickly and not really put too much thought into it, and the fact that it's there's a bit of sort of a buzz and a bit of hype around the band that's maybe it's a bit more sort of surprising, it's a hard one to sort of explain, but I don't know if it's necessarily the most sort of hyped or sort of, buzzworthy thing that I've done, but there's definitely more hype around it than the 3 of us would have ever sort of imagined. It's sort of gone on an upwards trajectory since it started. And maybe that was to do with COVID and lockdowns and no shows. Everything was, when there was no touring, I guess everything was like an even playing field. So anyone that's into music that wasn't allowed to go and see bands or couldn't go and see bands, or, nothing's happening. So people are sort of checking out all their new releases. So, band A that might be out on the road 2, 3, 4 months a year or whatever, that does all the circuits and all the rounds, all of a sudden, beginning band, i.e. us, we're on a level playing field because we've both got albums coming out. They're both getting however much press and push they might get. And people just dug it, I guess, without all the excitement of, like, so Cannibal they've just done a run at the States, and like fucking every show has apparently been sold out and awesome. So as well as them doing like a awesome new album, there's all that hype around the fact that they're doing this massive tour, and from all reports, it's just been amazing. So because that wasn't there, it was simply just bands putting out albums. I think maybe that's why we've seen.
I think that's maybe a fair point, but I would say that's only a part of it, And I say this, we're friends, so I can. So this comes from a place of I'm trying to kind of take the friendship piece out of the equation. When I look at Werewolves as an entity, I think that there was when that first record came out, and I think especially the second record, and I have a feeling the third is going to do even better for you guys. There is a real appetite from people who have been into death metal for a period of time to move away from a lot of the technical stuff and a lot of what I think is very nondescript releases coming out in death metal. There's some really good stuff coming out. Immolation, in my view, this year has put out one of the best death metal records, maybe one of the best records of their career. Yeah. But I would actually say, as a compliment to you, I think From the Cave to the Grave is better. But one of the things that makes it better, and I think what's tapped into that appetite is twofold: the spontaneity and the songwriting. And I think there's an awful lot of death metal bands that got away from, and I feel like in many ways still haven't quite gotten back to that ability to write self-contained songs that have a degree of variation, that are memorable, that are catchy, but that have that real kind of, for lack of a better phrase, caveman aggression. That like, and I joked with Sam. I said, like, the next record should be called "Making Toxic Masculinity Great Again." It's like it's got that kind of masculine edge to it, because that's what a lot. I mean, that's what a lot of us got into that style of music for. I remember when I heard Glenn Benton, doing Sacrificial Suicide for the first time, or when I heard, David Vincent doing Rapture, or John Tardy doing, I'm in Pain. It's like that. It's something. It taps into something that is extremely primitive in your brain, and you kind of, it's exactly the same feeling for me as when I'm at the gym doing weights. It's like that. I want to fuck something up, and it's like, Werewolves was one of the first times in a long time that I had felt that listening to a new death metal band, listening to a death metal band that wasn't, as established as some of my other favorites, Suffocation, Dying Fetus, Immolation. But like, even those bands, Dying Fetus is the exception. They've done their best record, in my view, with Wrong One to Fuck With, actually Immolation as well. But there's not as much excitement around those albums anymore as what there once was. And I think you guys have come out with something that feels fresh, and I think, as I said, has tapped into all of those things that people have been missing from the genre.
I think there's something that I sort of feel that, and I reckon there's also like maybe a bit of a draw point, is it's got an air of, the albums seem to, I mean, we don't by any means, but the albums and the overall sound has quite a obnoxious, sort of arrogant sort of thing to it. I think, like,
oh yeah.
When I was younger, like, I'd listen to hip hop or something. Like, I'd listen to NWA, and I'd be like in my bedroom as a kid, and I'd have to keep, I'd consciously keep the volume low because I don't want to let my parents hear the lyrics, things like that. And I think I've talked to Sam about it. There's not much, well, there probably is, I'm not the most well versed in what's going on in music at the moment, but I quite like the idea of us really trying to make something pretty obnoxious and horrible, in the same way that maybe the whole gangster rap sort of thing, there's a real air of arrogance, like, I've got so much money, I've got so much this, I've got so much that, like, I think that quality is like, the simplest thing is that song, We Are Better Than You. It's it's quite a fucking arrogant sort of thing to say, of course. So that mindset with such an aggressive music, I think is a pretty cool thing. And I don't really think many people have done that. People haven't made sort of, I mean, like I say, maybe they have, but I've just not really heard it. Sort of, such a obnoxious sort of music, like the samples that we put in, like in between the songs, there's Bronson, there's on the new album, there's Bricktop, all these sort of quite renowned people that use filthy language. I think that adds an air of sort of not niceness to the whole thing, which doesn't, you listen to death metal now, and there's some amazing musicians and amazing players and all the rest of it. But what does it really mean? Like, there's something like Brain Drill. Like, Brain Drill, what they play is incredible. But, does it really want to make you fucking kick someone's teeth in? Not really, I don't think.
Maybe well, Brain Drill is the perfect example. I've used them many times because they, to me, were the peak of that technical death metal wave that I fucking hated. And then you've got other bands like Born of Osiris and Rings of Saturn, all the shite. And it's like, none of that does anything for me. I mean, they can play their 8-string guitars and pretend to be as heavy as they want to be. There's nothing heavy to me about that. You could take, any song off the first Deicide record, and it's still better than anything that any of those bands have ever done. No matter how badly played it is, all the mistakes that they just left in the recording, all that sort of, it still sounds better. You bring it into 2022, Harvest of the Skulls there's so much aggression and just vitriol dripping from that song. And it's not, it's probably, I've, it's been many years since I've ever touched a guitar, and I was never very good to begin with, but it's like, it probably sounds like the least technical of any single song that's on that album.
Yeah,
but
it's the thing. There's a grimness that that I think things have to have. Like, if it's metal, it's got to be horrible. It's got to be nasty. It's got to be grim. Like fucking people joke about power metal being A, not being powerful, and B, not even being metal. If I play my mum a power metal song, she'll probably like it. Like if I play a Hate Eternal song, then she ain't gonna like that. That's, to me, that's what metal should be. It's like, firstly, your parents should hate it. That's mine did when I was little.
Yep. No, I completely agree. It's interesting what the parallels between that you drew between that and like old school gangster rap, because I still listen to a lot of old school gangster rap, and actually a lot of those bands were they were singing about money and stuff like that, but it wasn't like it is now. I mean, now it's very vapid and there's nothing really to it. But what I think the underlying theme they were communicating in a lot of those old songs is self-confidence. And I feel like that's the one thing that I've seen come on in leaps and bounds. The first Werewolves record has this, kind of spontaneous lightning in a bottle feel to it. The second record, you start to see that self-confidence, that sort of swagger come in. And then this new record, it's like that don't give a fuck attitude. You're now actually confident about having that attitude and putting it on full display. Which is also interesting because I know from the conversations we've had previously, it's literally, unless I'm mistaken, it's literally only a few months, if not weeks, between the writing of all of those songs.
Yeah. It's funny, I can't even remember now. I think they've all been written so we've got the fourth album done as well. So the fourth one, by rights, is going to sound exactly the same as the third one, because they were both tracked at the same time. The first album was done, then the second album was done really quickly, and then the third and fourth were done at the same time. The only thing being that Sam hasn't done the vocals for it yet. But it's I don't know. I guess it's maybe being a bit more confident in knowing how the end product is going to be. Because when we did, just personally speaking, when we did the drums and guitar and bass from the Cave to the Grave and the next album as well, I was really conscious of saying to the guys, look, we've got to be careful which ones we choose here. I don't want to fucking have album 3 with all what we think is the best songs, because we'll do it and it'll be great, hopefully. But then the next album, which is already recorded, might be all the sort of ones that don't feel quite as good. So I don't think we have. I think we've had a fairly even sort of split of songs, and there is a bit of a different vibe to them, because I don't think I would have written the third album and then probably just started doing the fourth one straight away, and then they all probably got a little bit muddled up as we went, because I know we pick and choose, changed a few of them around from what they were meant to be and stuff. So yeah, I mean the next one's got a ballad, dare I say it, much like this one does, and and just otherwise it's just got a whole lot more brutal stuff. So it's going to sound the same.
You're also starting to bring in a lot more of your black metal influences, which I think works exceptionally well with the band too. And again, for me, I don't know why. Maybe it's just me that feels this way. It separates you guys from the kind of run of the mill death metal bands. It kind of makes you more part of the scene that I love, which is kind of this new wave of black metal bands that just, to me, I mean, I rattle off the names so often, but it's like Panzerfaust, Ecclese. You kind of almost skirting around the periphery of those bands now. And that to me is again, like that's the scene I love, and that's the kind of the style of metal that I love now. And I think Werewolves is like the death metal ambassador within that scene, especially with how much of this black metal stuff is coming in. But you're writing for so many different projects at any given time. How do you kind of start to discern, okay, this is going to fit with this band, this is going to fit with this band? How do you pick out what goes where?
I think I probably just start like if I do something, then I've already got an idea of what it's for, where it's going.
Yeah.
So with what have I done lately? So we've done however many Werewolves albums we've got either recorded or ready to go. We've done all that. We've got a Bremlin album, so that's the Aussie sort of death metal band that's been around forever. So we've written another one of those albums, and then there's the Antichrist stuff. But to be fair, that was written like fucking years ago. That seems to have just fallen afoul of just the curse. There was COVID, there was a few other issues that.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that to me is. That's a different conversation.
Yeah. And then there's a rock band as well. So the rock band, it's, I think if I go, right, it's it's Thursday night, I've got to start making this album happen. Then it's like I'll sit down with a guitar and it's like, all right, well, this, I've got to do a werewolf song, or I've got to do a Bremlin song or Antichrist or whatever, and just sort of start. Werewolves is the easiest because I make a point to really not think about it. It's like, just get one good idea and then go. As soon as you can get that good idea, then just keep going until you've done a song. And I was saying the other day to someone that if I'm stuck, if I can't quite get something, it's like just get one riff and then build from there, because then chances are the next ones will be fine. And then get a song out of all that. And just sort of go like that. Rock band's a little bit harder because it's a pretty sort of riff orientated sort of band. So it's got to have, of course, Werewolves is riffs as well, but it's a bit more, I don't know, because it's rock, it's sort of got to be a little bit more catchy from the offset, in my mind anyway, So I don't know, man. Writing is the easy part, it's maybe finding the time is the harder bit, but if you want to do something, you'll make it happen. There's been plenty of times where I've gotten up at 5 a.m. to to fucking edit things in Pro Tools, or to practice guitar, or to go to the gym, because if I'm doing music in the evening, then I can't get to the gym, so I'll go there at 5 a.m. and until I reach breaking point where it's like, that's it, I've got to stop and go to bed for a minute.
Yeah. Well, the rate at which you churn out music is fucking staggering. And they're not just music, you churning out superb music, elite of the elite level music. So that is, it's incredibly admirable to me. I if you think about how long some bands take to do anything, it's as I said, I think a lot of people probably would be rightfully quite jealous of this sort of creatively fertile patch that you're in right now.
Yeah. The thing is though that and I've encountered this with the rock band. So in the olden days, many years ago, before the internet, before you could email songs, click tracks and MP3s and all that sort of shit, bands used to obviously get together and play and write and record together. And that in itself is a pretty magical sort of thing, because 4 people in a room that are all bouncing ideas off each other can come up with some pretty amazing stuff, you know. And that was always how ACK worked in my time with them. And it's, I guess, the compromise of being that kind of a band that maybe even nowadays still all get together in that room and all make something happen together, is it's just a time thing, you know. Like you can't just go in there and go bang, expect to be able to do something straight away. Jam on a riff, jam on an idea, build it up, change it around, chop it up and down, you know, move things around, which is which is a great thing to do. And I've been doing that with the rock band lately, and it's pretty rewarding to collectively do something that all gets put together, and we all, you know, have a part in creating something. It's very rewarding, but it just takes time. So if you're that kind of a band, then, you know, the guitarist simply sending a song with a click track to the drummer, it's like, well, yeah, it's not really my vibe. Maybe they want to change things and work on it together and stuff. So I think maybe, like, well, with Werewolves particularly, we're all very comfortable just doing the whole sort of, I'll do it, I'll give it to you, you do whatever you want, and then we'll give it to him, he can do whatever he wants. And, you know, just the fact that we're all sort of in our 40s and have done death metal forever, it's like you can be confident that it's like, all right, he's going to do a good job, and then he's going to do a good job, and hopefully it'll all be okay in the end.
But the three of you seem to be incredibly dialed into each other creatively, you know, in the best possible way. And, you know, again, you mentioned the rap thing there. The one thing I've spoken to Sam about it too, the way he phrases his vocals, the way what his vocals adds to the music is fucking incredible. I think he is easily one of the best extreme metal vocalists on the planet right now. You know, especially if you base it on the last couple of Werewolves records and the Antichrist Imperium record that's about to, or that will drop at some point this year, hopefully.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's it might help that he's quite sort of well spoken as well. He's he's sort of the opposite of me, but
yeah,
in several ways, which is quite funny. But that's a good thing, you know. I think that's why we've been friends for so long. But yeah, no, he's a very good singer and very good lyricist, and just fucking on, you know, be it in the studio or live or whatever. So yeah, it's good. It's all come together really well, and it's an exciting time now that it's, you know, gonna happen live.
Yeah. Well, very excited to see what happens there. But dude, that Antichrist Imperium record, it is one of the most mind-blowing things I've heard in a very, very long time. I shan't give away its position in its current position in my best of 2022 standings yet, but Jesus Christ, it's good. Like I mean, I was a big fan of the first and the second record, but this to me is such a massive leap forward in every possible respect. The atmosphere, the brutality is more, the atmosphere is more, like just every single thing that was great about both the last two records, if I had to describe it, it's just like the dial's just been cranked up on all of it.
Cool. Yeah, it's good. I haven't listened to it for a little while. We were doing the group chat thing the other day just about some of the label orientated stuff that we're getting through at the minute, and Sam Loynes, he sent a message to us all saying, fucking hell, I just listened to the album for the first time in, you know, however long. It's fucking it's awesome. So
it's a bit, in terms of performance, and again, I'm a huge fan of Sam's. It's the best thing he's done for sure. I mean, I thought that he had turned in a, you know, stellar performance on that Lost Voices record, but like this to me is a whole big step up for him. Like his voice and like his interpretation of the melody through his voice is just on a different level.
Yeah, he's he's definitely like I've noticed the significant improvements that he's made since the first recordings and that. It's funny, this one we spent so fucking long recording the album. Various reasons, things went wrong and problems and all that. And it finally got down to the wire, and it's like I think I'd set like a mental date of like, mate, I think it was like Christmas time or something. It's like, we've got to get this finished. We can't fuck around anymore. And I'd said to him, dude, can you get your vocals done like, in however long, let's say a month or whatever it was. And he said to me, he's like, oh, I'll do my best because I've got a whole lot of things going on. I think he had some work stuff and whatever else it was, but he was very, very busy. And he goes, I'll just do what I can and send you bits and pieces when I can. I'm like, totally, man. Whatever you can do would be great, because then I'll just piece them together and get them off to the guy that's mixing it and stuff. And I don't know, every week he'd just send me a few lines worth of vocals for a few songs and a few harmonies and stuff. And everything was just fucking gold. I'm like, man, it's all just awesome. And I sent him a message when he pretty much done everything and the mix was getting there. And I sent him a message. I said, man, fucking everything you've done is fucking brilliant. It's all so good. And he'd because being the other side of the world, we didn't get together. We had a chat on the phone once or twice, and just messages and emails and all that sort of shit. But there was a few bits where like I had things in my mind that I was sort of somewhat hearing, and he just did it. We didn't even really talk about it. He just, I'm not going to tell him what to do. It's like, do what you feel, and then we'll see how it goes. And there was things that he just, things that were on the same wavelength as what I was kind of hoping he might do, that he did, and he made it better. He put in extra harmonies and ideas and stuff. So yeah, it was really good. It took a long time to all come together, but it was worth it in the end. But,
I also heard from Sam, sorry, you guys narrowly avoided disaster, because we won't go into the specifics, but he did tell me about the ill-fated female vocalist that was potentially going to be added. One, I don't think it would have fit the music. I think female vocals to me is like, it's something you use for certain kinds of music. There's too much of a masculine energy on that Antichrist Imperium record, where I just don't think it would have worked. But also, I heard there was the individual in question was pretty shocked at Sam's lyrics.
Yeah, it was funny that, because she's totally cool, and we had a great conversation about it all. And the short version is like, there was a few sort of lyrical topics and bits and pieces scattered throughout that she wasn't really comfortable with, and she didn't agree with, and she wasn't comfortable with. And I put her in touch with Sam Bean about the vote, because he wrote, I guess, the majority of the vocals. And they just had a very adult conversation about what his vocals were, what they meant, why he'd done them, how it's nothing, of course, there's nothing, what's the word, malicious.
Yeah.
It's just fucking heavy metal, We're a death metal band. Cannibal Corpse are a death metal band. Look at the lyrical topics they had. So after a few just very polite and adult emails, it was like, oh, cool. Well, if you're not comfortable, then that's perfectly fine. And thank you for telling us. And so it was all good. There wasn't any specific plans for where or what she was going to do. But as it turned out, she wasn't particularly comfortable with it. And she communicated that, and we had a chat, and it was all good. And
which is a very reasonable thing to do as well.
Yeah,
Much better than if she goes in, records it, then suddenly turns around and goes, "Well, I'm now regret it. I shouldn't have ever done it." It becomes a whole big thing.
Yeah, no, it was it worked out all right. I mean, we obviously don't know how they would have turned out in the songs and in the mix, and whether it would have worked or not. I guess it was a shame not to try it, but at the same time, if someone's not comfortable doing something for whatever reason, then 100%, you got to just respect their sort of views on why they don't want to be involved. And all parties left. We're quite happy with one another, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, I do think that the kind of this censorship that is applied, in my view, very selectively to certain bands, and you exclude overtly racist stuff or anything like that from that equation, obviously, right? But a lot of other bands that get stick over stuff they're singing about, I find it bizarre when other bands just get given a pass. And a great example is Cannibal Corpse. I mean, I love Cannibal Corpse. As I've gotten older, I must confess, I've started to develop a distaste for like really obscene stuff. I like baby rape and shit like that. There was a time when that sort of stuff to me was funny, and nowadays I just don't think it's funny anymore. I think it's fucking moronic. Sorry. Some no-name number from Leicester is trying to call me. I'll just ignore that. But yeah, so there used to be a time where that sort of thing used to be quite funny. Nowadays it's just not anymore. I still like hard lyrics, but like, again, things that appeal to me a lot more are something that I need to be able to somehow relate to it in a way. And sometimes it's just about relating to the feeling of it, but like, sometimes it's because it evokes a different idea in my head or something like that, or even the way certain bands approach occult stuff. I think the way that Marduk handled Romans 5:12 as an example, that to me is awesome, because they're not a band who are known as being contemplative, but there's like a contemplative element to it. Well, yeah, I'm going on a bit of a ramble here, but yeah, I've always said, like, this business of people trying to pick on certain bands about certain things that they've said, I think it's a dangerous road to go down, because at what point if you're really going to apply that way of thinking, at what point do you stop? Like a good example, how many bands have sampled Charles Manson in a song, including, big bands like Paradise Lost. The dude, ran around with a swastika carved into his forehead, and he was by no small stretch of the imagination an avowed white supremacist. So we're going to then start canceling all of those bands. I definitely think people need to kind of understand the context of why and how these lyrical ideas come about, or samples are included, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's a turbulent time for all this kind of stuff. And I mean, as an example, with when we did me and Dave Ailey, when we did the Bremelin album for the Aussie band, that's got a bit of a what's the word? A bit of a grim sort of front cover.
Yeah.
And we did it, and so we did the photo shoot for that. And the irony being, it's on the cover of the album, it's there's obviously nothing X-rated or anything like that, but it's the two people that are on the cover in the photo shoot is Tim, the guitarist, and his girlfriend. Been together forever, and so they're the people on the cover of the album, and it's a bit like, it's a bit grim, it's a bit harrowing, but the label that we shot that to here in Oz, basically they looked at it and said, "Nah, can't do it." And we're like, "Oh, well, she goes, nah, we can't have that in the shops. We can't put that in the local stores." It just goes, "You'll get a complaint. And if you get a complaint, that's it. They all have to come out of the stores. It just won't happen." And it's like, "All right, well, see. I don't know. We'll think otherwise. And so, you know, all the lyrics in that band are all pretty grim, and you know, it's just tongue in cheek, of course. It's not.
Yeah.
And so Simon, the singer who wrote all the lyrics, he was quite adamant about having that cover. And it's like, it's fucking death metal. It's meant to be fucking horrible, you know. Fucking, we've been through all this shit. Fucking in the early 90s, the whole censorship and fucking this, that, the other. It's all over and done with. But we didn't really realize to sort of what level things are like with, you know, things getting cancelled because of being perceived as violence against women, or being perceived as being racist, or whatever else fucking there is that people are complaining about. But so we did that album, and you know, and I guess the problem with the album cover is it depicts like a scene where there's violence against a woman, and you know, of course we're all fucking nice, normal humans. We've all got jobs. We all pay taxes. We've all got partners. Half of us have got kids. So we're normal people, and we couldn't get signed. We couldn't release the album through a label, and so we did it independently. And the distribution company that had it out in Oz, they got in touch with us at some point into the release and said, "Oh, we're not selling it anymore. Someone at the warehouse has complained about the cover." So, well, they don't like it, so we're not going to stock it anymore.
Yeah.
So we now know it didn't have official distribution in Australia. And it's like, well, you know, you do realize that you stock Tomb of the Mutilated and various other albums with horrific lyrics and whatever. Yeah, you've judged this on its cover, and you've judged, therefore, you know, you've judged us on what we've done.
Yeah. It's again, like I said, it's very.
Yeah.
I find one of the things that I think to be most egregious about this censorship, aside from the fact that a lot of it seems to be coming from within the scene, which that to me is also a disgrace, but a lot of it is, it's as I said, it's applied extremely selectively. You can't, if you're gonna, for example, take a hard line on anything that is remotely misogynistic, must come off the shelves. All right, first of all, get rid of most of the gangster rap. Especially, you know, up to and including kind of mid-90s. Secondly, get rid of some of the biggest records of all time, including Appetite for Destruction. Nas and I joked about that the other day, you know, like how you could not in a million fucking years have the inner sleeve of Appetite for Destruction in any record now ever. You just could not have it.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, it's again, like I said, ridiculous.
I was going to say the reissue or whatever of is it Lies, where I think they've taken out 1 in a million.
Really?
Because of
they don't have they fought, because I really like that song. They haven't taken it off of Cobuzz. You know, so let's talk about that, because we're both fans of it, and I did tell you I wanted to bring this up. So and part of why I wanted to bring it up, I listened to the Mark Lanigan autobiography on Audible. He actually spoke about something in that which kind of got me onto the Duff McKagan autobiography for a second time. I'd actually read the book about 8-9 years ago. I don't know if it's that long, but yeah, right about when it came out, I read it. And then I'm listening to it again now. Just a side note, the reason Mark Lanigan mentioned it is when Mark Lanigan was homeless, Duff had heard of his plight and basically let him live in one of his houses and take care of the place, which I thought was a very decent, nice thing to do. But anyways, yeah, so he brings up 1 in a million. And as he was talking about it and talking about all the heat that they got for that song when it came out, I was thinking to myself, it's like, surely anyone with half a brain can listen to this and understand what Axel's getting at here. He's I mean, I wouldn't write a song, you know, using those words today. And I don't think necessarily, you know, any band with who's halfway intelligent is going to do it either. But at the same time, I still get where he's coming from. I didn't pick up anything malicious or you know, hateful in that song. It's he's singing it from the perspective of somebody who's coming from a extremely close-minded background into this wide open world and what his experience of that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can say that, but that's not how the, I guess, the council culture are going to fucking perceive it, is it?
That's not how the masses perceive it. Well,
yeah.
they're still, I mean, they've not been flagged yet. They don't have the swastika next to their name like some other bands. I saw purely because he's, I think he books them now as well. But once upon a time, Primordial played with Destroyer 666. So on this master list that's kept online, I can't remember the website's name, where all the good bands, the really good bands, they have a hammer and sickle next to their name, and all the really bad bands, they've got a swastika next to their name. Poor old Alan Averill and Primordial, they now carry the swastika, mate. Which is just fucking obscene, but anyway. But now, here's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So amongst Guns N' Roses fans, for those that don't know, and anybody who is tuned into this for pure black and death metal talk, skip over the next 5 to 10 minutes now. There is I wouldn't say it's like a hobby, but there's a discussion around if Use Your Illusion was one record, what songs would you include and in what running order? And it's called Choose Your Illusion. So I have pained about this many times. Like whenever I was bored on the train in London, or I go through these phases when I get really into Guns N' Roses and I listen to the old stuff again, and I start piecing together, right, what would the record sound like? You know, how would I make it sound? And I think I finally come upon the definitive Choose Your Illusion. All the dross cut out, all the stuff I don't like, not there. A couple of songs that maybe you would have had on some sort of B-side single or something like that, but this would have been my 12-song Choose Your Illusion. So I'll give this, I'll tell you mine, and if you've got strong views, then you tell me yours. Okay. So we start off, track 1 is Pretty Tied Up, which I think is a good kind of sequel to Welcome to the Jungle, because Welcome to the Jungle is about excess. Pretty Tied Up is about excess. It even starts off with that sample, The Perils of Rock and Roll Excess, or Perils of Rock and Roll Decadence, sorry. So it's kind of like, I feel like that's a nice way to bring us back up to speed with where the band are at. Straight after that, it's the same sequence on Use Your Illusion, obviously different space on the record, but Locomotive is next, which would have caught people by a bit of surprise because it's still got the rock element, but it's a bit longer, a bit more progressive. It's got that coda at the end. Yeah. That then dovetails very nicely into my track 3, which is 14 Years. Great song. Bit of a shift in gears, but just enough of a shift in gears to usher in my 4th track, which is Back Off Bitch. Back Off Bitch then goes into Double Talking Jive. So again, similar sequencing to Use Your Illusion 1, but it a little bit different. And then the final track on side 1 would be Civil War, which again would actually come out quite nicely after that kind of Spanish guitar piece at the end of Double Talking Jive. Right. So that's side
A of your
that's side A.
Final.
Yeah.
How many songs is that? It's probably too many
6
songs.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 6. I worked it out to have six aside.
Okay.
So then, what the fuck did I do with my? Hold on. My for some bizarre reason, it's not picking up the full thing now. Okay, but anyways, I'll get to side B in a second. There we go. So side B starts off with Right Next Door to Hell.
Yep.
Then we move on to Don't Damn Me. Then a bit of a swerve. We throw in The Garden, which is one of my favorite songs on Use Your Illusion.
Yep.
Then we go into Yesterdays. Then from Yesterdays, people go, oh, these guys have gotten soft. Nope, we throw in You Could Be Mine. Yeah, and then we close off side B with the record in general with the epic Estranged, which has a nice way of ending the album as well, because you kind of have the axle moan and the drum hit and the piano. But there you go. That is Choose Your Illusion. The dross is taken out. No, Don't Cry. No, November Rain. None of that stuff. But that would have been my definitive Choose Your Illusion.
Yeah. So I'll when you said I had to think about this, and it's funny because for probably one of my favorite bands, I've listened to them for quite some time. And yeah, I get what you're doing with the track listings, but the problem is that I have with that is I love how they both open both albums. Like I really like, put it this way, get rid of Knock on Heaven's Door.
Yeah.
Get rid of Don't Cries. So the two Don't Cries, I mean, there should never have been two. If you want to have one because you want a soppy ballad, then so be it. But I think that having a bit of up and down with ballads and quiet, like chilled songs, is a good idea. I really like how it goes from Strange with that ending into You Could Be Mine. I think that's just dynamite. I think they've just nailed that. And there's a few other moments throughout those albums where I think the running order, it's really good. But yeah, there's a couple of silly things like that thing at the very end.
My World.
Yeah, it's got the Bjork sort of synth line or whatever going on it. It's like, there's no need for that. That does nothing for a Guns N' Roses album. No. It kind of dips its toes into where Axl wanted to go, I guess. But yeah, like The Garden and Garden of Eden, brilliant. Pretty Tied Up and Locomotive, great. But I don't know if I'd start the albums with them. I reckon the albums, I think they both start really strongly, how they are.
Yeah. Well, so I will say I'm a little biased there because the first Guns N' Roses song that I ever heard was Pretty Tied Up, and someone gave me a copy of Use Your Illusion 2, but they had mixed around the sides. So side B was on side A of the cassette, and side A was on side B of the cassette. So I thought for a period of time that Pretty Tied Up was how the record started.
There you go. It's a throwback to you.
I was about to say, so it's it's capturing that effervescence of a 11-year-old. I think I was 11 when I heard it the first time, like hearing that song for the first time, and that to me was just that riff on that song is so fucking cool, and like just the way, I love the way that Slash's part kind of starts, and then all that Izzy does is he just plays like one note and just lets it ring, and it's such a fucking badass like rock and roll fuck you way of playing. It killed me seeing them doing it live and having the fucking Soweto Gospel Quartet standing on stage with them singing it, because it made the song feel so toothless.
Yeah, you see, and the other thing I would say is I would keep November Rain in there, and for a fucking death metal and black metal.
I'm about to say you fucking pussy.
Yeah, if you like, in the sense of having an album that's sort of quite varied, and when that fucking film clip happens and he's in the desert and he walks out the church and fucking plays a solo, it's like, well, I've got a bit of a soft spot for that.
Yeah. I used to like that song when I was young, but I think was it on the Appetite for Destruction, that that like big sort of 3-disc thing that they released of it, like this I think it was like the 30th anniversary or something. They had, I believe, an acoustic version of November Rain on there, and I actually thought that was really good. I kind of thought to myself, why didn't they just leave it like this and just work off of that rather than turn it into this kind of proto Queen song that Axl turned it into.
That's why. It's because it was becoming the Axl Rose project. And, it was going from just a rock band, the fucking track 1, Right Next Door to Hell, off the first Use Your Illusion. It's like that's just perfect in my mind. That's exactly what that band should do. They should open with a song like that and just the riff, and it's great. But I get rid of the covers, get rid of both Don't Cries. I would leave November Rain in. And like I'm a sucker for Coma as well.
That is a very good song. I was debating where to put that in, but then I was kind of trying to stick with how long you would have for a single full length record, and it's a pretty long one. So
yeah, when I was I started a different job in London, and there was a CD player that was like mine that I could use, and I just used to listen to both those usual because I didn't want to listen to anything too abrasive, so at least I could listen to that, and anyone that comes in was like, oh, fair enough.
So you had Pierced from Within on day in and day
out. But yeah, like Coma, it's just like I love that song, and it's because it's such an epic, like it's 10 minutes, and it's it's good. It's a real journey, sort of musically, up and down, loud and quiet, and it just keeps building and building. It's so big fan. I don't know if I agree with your track listing, but that's just me. But I
don't think anyone will ever agree with it, with like the definitive track listing of it. But it is it's fun to do though. And like I said, I go through these phases where there's certain bands I'm like that with. Killing Joke is another one. I'll just go through a period where for like 3-4 weeks I'm just stuck on that band. I just can't listen to I can't bring myself to listen to anything else.
It's funny, when I was quite young, I remember when Cradle of Filth sort of happened in Australia, and I remember hearing the first album, and there was a lot of hype and buzz around it, and then I don't remember Vampire coming out, but I remember when Dusk and Her Embrace came out, and I really liked it. Whenever it was heavy, like I thought it was great. I really liked it. But that album, in amongst all the heavy and sort of the fast and the black metal bits or whatever, black metal in inverted commas, in between all the heavy bits, there was all the poetry and spoken word. And I borrowed that CD off a friend, and it's back when I used to make tapes of things. So it's before CD burning, or before I had a CD burner or whatever. And so I borrowed that album of someone, and I made a tape of it, and I pressed pause on the recording every time all the poetry and the spoken word. So I had like a half album of brutal Cradle of Filth.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
that album was huge in the circles that I moved in. I did like it for a period of time, but I very quickly moved away from it. When I heard Battles in the North and In the Nightside Eclipse, that was like the big shift. And then like Ceremony of Opposites I got as well around the same time. And then I got Philosophim at the same time. When I heard Dunkelite, it was like, Jesus Christ. It's like, this is next level stuff. And then it just, that I didn't feel any sort of thrill from that anymore. And I'm the same as you. I don't want to hear the poetry and the that sort of thing. I could say it because it's my podcast. I always just felt that it was for weaklings. It's just I've never liked anything that denotes weakness in men, generally speaking. But I especially don't like it in metal. And Morgan, I've said it so many times, but he was fucking spot on when he said it. Like, black metal is about being a fist in the face of God, not about sitting beside a river and crying. So,
well, when because there was a point where Cradle were like fucking massive here, and I think the first time they came out was for the Dusk and Embrace album, and I remember like I went to the show, and everyone had a Cradle of Filth t-shirt on. I was like, oh wow, this is a thing. It's just like literally everyone in the fucking audience had a Cradle of Filth t-shirt on. And the next time they came round, I don't know what album it was. Anyway, the next time they toured Oz, the band Bremlin that I was playing with, we supported them. We did like the national shows with them, and there was quite a difference in the people that were there. Maybe it was more sort of younger, and there was nowhere near as many Cradle t-shirts in the crowd as there was that first time round. So that sort of that buzz sort of must have died off a little bit. because they're not, I mean, they were fucking massive, back then.
Were you already in Acrococker when Acrococker played or opened for them on a couple of London shows? And that's where I saw Acrococker for the first time and I heard them for the first time.
I wasn't there then.
That was a paradigm shift in my musical taste. Like I remember, going to see Cradle of Filth more out of curiosity than anything else, not knowing who these Acrococker guys are, and then these suited dudes walk up, and it was it was in the days where like Jason had a real aura about him on stage, and then I was just blown away. Like I didn't know whether I loved it. I just knew I wanted to hear it again. It's like it was just fucking mind blowing to me. It's absolutely mind blowing. And it was like again, it was like during the time when he had really mastered all of this stuff. Like when he introduces it, like we're going down to hell. It's like. And it's just it made Cradle of Filth sound so fucking shit when they came on stage, because it's like you just had these dudes that are just like the serious men had been on stage, and now these fucking nerds came, these comic book nerds came on with. I mean, what was bad about their show as well is they had these two screens aside the Astoria stage, and it was like they were running a Verimark commercial. It was like they would have the album cover of the song that they were playing, that had the song on that they were playing, like flashed on the screen, and it was almost like dial 1-800 to buy this now. It was just fucking lame.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, and there's like it's obviously they've done like so many albums like over the last however long they've been going. It's got to be. I don't even know. It's a long time ago.
25 years, 30 years, I think.
25 years or something, 30 years. But, it gets to a point when if you just keep changing your lineup, it's just, what is there that's convincing anymore? If every album that comes, I mean, I know it's his band, but I'm pretty sure he's not writing the guitar parts, for example, or the keyboard parts. So, it's like there's constant turnover of staff, if you will, and it's like, well, I don't know. I think it's a Ghoul, for example. He a fucking A+ move for moving from there. I
was literally just about to say best thing to ever come out of Cradle of Filth is Charles Edger. So, who's now playing with one of the fucking band of bands. Yeah.
So. Yeah, but even like what you're saying about no sign of weakness. It's like thinking back to when first hearing that band, I very quickly went from I don't even remember the time frames that these happened, but first hearing Cradle, and then it was very soon after that it was like Satyricon, Nemesis Divina, and Dimu's best album in my mind, that Darkness
Enthroned Darkness Triumphant.
Yeah, and then Panzer Division. It's like, well, I've gone to the highest level of savagery in an album, so I can't go back to poetry and recitals and spoken word and what have you.
Nerd shit. Yeah, no, 100%. Hey, by the way, I see you're wearing a Predator hoodie. Have you seen the trailer for Prey?
No, I haven't actually. I know what you're talking about. So yeah. I've seen it like on YouTube, but I've not watched it. I kind of just assumed it was. Is it a Predator film?
Yeah. Like a full ball Predator movie. So, it's basically like this Native American girl, I believe in like the 1800s, like frontier time, who. It seems, from what I can gather from the trailer, that the Predator sets upon her and her family, and most likely wipes out most of them, and then she's left to try and fend for herself. It's directed by the guy that did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is, I think, a great movie.
Is that the one that's underground with John Goodman?
Yeah,
that's great.
That's a superb movie. So that kind of gives me hope for it, because the Predator, I would. If there's any one film director I would love to beat the living fuck out of. It's the guy that made that piece of shit. But like Prey seems to me like they might somehow get that back on track a little bit. Like I was, my friend Lawrence was saying, made a good point when he was messaging me about his thoughts on it, and he was like, "Well, think about Predator. It's not like Arnie. Like Arnie had muscles and stuff, but he's not like this. He's not the physically dominant one in the film. So it doesn't really matter that it's a girl. It was cunning that defeats the Predator. So provided they kind of go that angle, then it's absolutely fine. And it's actually a relatively cool setting to put it in because she doesn't have weapons, she doesn't have guns, she just has her bow and arrow and knives and stuff like that. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I just that whatever I can't even remember the line, but it's something like I where Predator somehow speaks to them on the Predator, says, "I want to see the boy they call Chris or the warrior they call Chris." That to me, I loudly sat in the cinema and said, "This is the biggest load of shit I have ever watched in my entire life."
Yeah, we were because it's directed by the same
it's directed by the dude that did Hawkins. I think he played Hawkins in the first movie.
Yeah, that's right. Because like I remember thinking in the lead up to that, it's like this has to be good. You know, he was in the best Predator film. He can't fuck it up. But fucked it up beyond salvation.
There's literally nothing good about the movie. That's the thing. It's not just that the movie sucks. There is nothing vindicating about it, and yet somehow 75% of people still like the film on Google. I don't know how that works. Shane Black is the dude that directed it. I was about to say that's fake news, but yeah, it was truly abysmal. And I was in for Predator 2. I thought that's cool. I still think it's great. I watched it again the other day. I sent you a picture. That's a work of genius. And I think the Predators, or not the Predators, sorry, Predators, I thought it was pretty decent as well. I don't know why it's got so much hate.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I saw that at the cinema when it came out, and I thought it was brilliant. Adrian Brody, and he's all cut up, he's all
he's cool in that. He's good. I mean, he's a good actor generally, but he's. I thought he was very cool in that movie as well.
Yeah, and the rest of the cast were as well. Whatever her name is from what's the show that she's in? Queen of the South. I forget her name, but the girl.
I've never seen Queen of the South.
Oh, it's good. It's on Netflix, whatever. But all the characters are great. There's Machete, Danny Trejo, whatever. And I'm not sure the names of the other guys, the other people in it. I thought it was good.
Well, they got Walton Goggins in as well, who is, I mean, now one of the funniest human beings on the face of the earth. I don't know whether you've watched Vice Principals or The Righteous Gemstones.
No.
He's in both of those. I think if I've got your sense of humor sussed, you will like both. So make a point of watching them. They're fucking hysterical. But he is one of the main stars in both. But yeah, like I said, I'm reasonably optimistic about it. I just hope that they don't toss in a bunch of. I can't imagine how they would be able to. But all of the woke crap that they shoved into the Predator, it just killed it for me. It's like, why must you take something that I love so much and wreck it?
Well, that was also the deal with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the new one on Netflix.
I haven't even bothered to watch after Mike Hill and Michael Scondata reviewed it on Necromaniacs. I was like, well, I'm out. I'm not going to bother wasting my time with that shit.
Yeah, I listened to that review post watching it actually, and but there's just so many things in it. I mean, it's all just wrong. It's a mistake of a film. But there's a lot of parts in it that's like, well, none of this is necessary except for the fact that you want to be accessible to a certain crowd or whatever it is. So yeah, you've not missed much by not.
Have you seen The Northman yet?
No.
That's well worth watching. That's very, very good. It is got, so it's a Viking movie set in, I think, 868 AD. It starts off with a very typical plot where, boy sees father murdered, and this is in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. goes on a crusade for revenge. It's got Alexander Skarsgård in. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He actually was in, I think, again, one of the biggest loads of shit shows ever, True Blood. But in this movie, he is absolutely shredded. He's a complete and utter savage. And like if you kind of start from that plot line, it reminded me a little bit of Apocalypto. It is equally savage as well. I mean, there's a scene where somebody is bound with another person's entrails. The person's been killed, hung off a roof, their entrails pulled out of their stomach, and they've bound the person with the entrails. So it's like that's the kind of shit that you see quite a bit in the movie. But yeah, very cool.
I think I've written a song about that.
Yeah, really cool, really well done. I feel like there's a bit of a renaissance as far as movies and TV shows and stuff like that are concerned. Like there's for a long time there was nothing to watch, and then now it's starting to get a bit better again.
Yeah. There's a guy on YouTube that I watch for a laugh sometimes. He's called his YouTube name is The Critical Drinker, and he reviews anything and everything that comes out, and he also does sort of his and everything is like all of his reviews are all negative. So he reviewed that the Predator film and basically said how much of a pile of shit it is, and he also does things where he talks about how good certain films are. So he's talked about how good the original Predator film is. We actually watched him last night. He was talking about how good and how non-sort of woke the new Top Gun film is.
Oh yeah.
So apparently it's a solid film. There's no political agendas. There's no woke agendas. It's just what it should be, which is like somewhat of an action film about an old bloke that comes back and flies a plane. Not that I'm in Top Gun. I'm not, but watching his reviews and the way he talks about films and what's good and what's bad, it's quite entertaining. And he's actually talked about The Northman. He's saying that it's good. So I find anything that he says is generally on the money with what I sort of agree with.
Has he spoken about probably the best horror movie that's come out this year, I think, X?
Okay, no, I don't think so.
That's well worth your time if you've not seen it yet. It's basically it's the same guy that did The Sacrament, which I loved, House of the Devil, and I can't remember what else he did. Ty West. It's about this group that goes out it's set in the 70s. They go out to shoot a porno at this farmhouse. And then the couple that own the farmhouse, they're a little off the rails, and then things go from there. So some fucking insane gore. A lot of the stuff in the movie is very, very twisted. But it's kind of every single thing from what I've heard that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not. Builds up genuine tension. There's actually characters you care about. There's even a little snippet of them doing a cover of as a group after I think they've shot one of the scenes of Landslide, and the girl that sings it does a pretty reasonable impression of Stevie Nicks.
Very good.
Cool. All right, dude. So just one quick question before we wrap it up. Have you any idea of when that Antichrist Imperium record is going to be released?
Right. So funnily enough, I spoke to Connor the other day about this, and I said, I'm gonna be on Into the Necrosphere. What can I say to them? So what can I say to him? Because he's going to ask. And basically, he said that
the masses want to know, mate. That's the reason why.
Yeah, the crowds are speaking. So they're aiming for a September release. So everything seems to be on target and going well. I mean, the album's been finished since the audio component of the album's been finished since Christmas, I guess. But it took a little while to get the artwork finalized. Dave obviously has done all the artwork again, and just to get it all collated and compiled and the layout and everything done. So they're aiming for September. So fingers crossed it happens. If not, then I just presume it'll be October, just if there's any delays. So, touch wood, it's happening. It's going to be this year. And the album title as well which is quite funny. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's going to be called Volume 3, Satan in His Original Glory. So
I'd read something like that. I knew it was going to be Volume 3, but I think the strap line.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at it for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's Volume 3, Satan in His Original Glory, which I don't know who came up with that, but it's fucking
it's fucking genius. That sounds like something that David would come up with, but it's
I reckon,
awesome.
I reckon that's where you got to point the finger. It sounds like the kind of stroke of genius that he would have. So,
yeah.
It's looking like September. They were talking about announcements like last week, so it's very close. It's just every step of the way it's taken time, but when it's out, it'll all be worth it, I hope.
Yeah, no, for sure. And anything else you've got going on that you want to plug?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, there's obviously werewolves shit out all the time. So we've got albums out and EPs out and vinyl and t-shirts and all sorts of things. There's another band which you've heard, but I'm not particularly at liberty to talk about at the moment.
I was about to say I consciously didn't bring it up, so I know about it, but I consciously didn't say anything.
Obviously, there's a funny story behind that, but that's all very much under wraps at the moment.
Right, that's G14 classified.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. All right, my man. Listen, great catching up with you again. Glad to see you doing well. And man, I like I've said before, at some point in the next, hopefully not too long, hopefully we get to meet up in person.
Well, the plan is, so me and the missus were meant to come to England fucking as COVID started.
Yeah.
So it took us 2 years. We got the refund for the flights. So I think realistically we will be in the UK next year. I'd like to say this year, but there's just a bit too much going on and it's all a bit manic and who knows what's really happening. So I'll be in the UK next year, I would imagine. And man, good to catch up. Have a beer.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Knock around on the mean streets of Kingston. It's changed a lot since you lived there. It's become a lot more respectable now. It's actually, I would definitely say about Kingston, I think it's really nice. I don't say that about a lot of parts of London. Most of London, from my perspective, should be fucking bombed into the ground. But it's, I think Kingston's it's nice. It's a nice place to live, and I think all the stuff they've done to make it nicer is even better. There's the standard London hallmarks, graffiti everywhere, riffraff everywhere, trash all over the place, but you kind of take the sour with the sweet, I think, if you were going anywhere near London.
It was good to go down near the river, like in summer or whatever. It was that was a pretty special sort of special time in London, that was. And,
cool. All right, man. Talk again very soon.
Nice one.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Blessing down your fucking throat.
Odibus Tyrannus by Werewolves, the album, of course, From the Cave to the Grave. And I've got to say, I don't think that I have seen so much excitement for a record on social media since, at least this year, since Absent in Body, which is saying something. So I'm glad that everybody seems to be getting into this Werewolves record. Obviously, a huge pleasure having Matt on, as always. He will definitely be on at some point again down the line. Thank you very much to him for his time. And I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed recording it. As I've said before, I make no bones about the fact that the Werewolves gang are probably some of my favorite people in music, and I think that they have released, in my view, one of the best, if not the best, death metal record of 2022. So if you haven't checked out From the Cave to the Grave yet, then make sure that you do. Let's move on now to another new release in the shape of the sophomore effort by New Zealand's Verberus. It is entitled, as I said at the top of the podcast, Adumbration of the Veiled Logos. It was released by Norma Evangelium Diaboli on June the 17th, and it is the follow-up to 2018's Vorant Gnosis, as well as their 2016 debut full-length Vexamen. Another fun fact about Verberus, they also happen to feature Jamie St. Merat of Ulcerate on drums, and if you're familiar with that band, it should start to clue you in to what to expect here. Side note, if you have not yet listened to Ulcerate's Stare into Death and Be Still at least 100 times, then I am personally disappointed in you. And I say that even though Ulcerate turned me down for an appearance on this podcast 2 years ago when I reached out to them. But the invitation is still open and it's still there should they change their mind. Back to Verberus, though, and the name of their game is Blackened Death Metal, with an emphasis on the black element in that pairing, as well as some seriously long songs. The final cut on this release, called I Am the Father and the Tomb of the Heavens, for example, comes in at a very meaty 20 and a half minutes, while the album overall runs for just under an hour, which in my opinion makes a very welcome change from the admittedly excellent EPs masquerading as full lengths that have come out this year. The length seems fitting too, because Verberus most certainly have plenty to say musically and lyrically, and their frantic guitar-forward and heavily atmospheric songwriting really benefits from, or this time round, from a much better production effort than any of their previous releases have enjoyed. It also ensures a really tangible heft behind every instrument. Each instrument feels weighty, there's a lot of impact, whilst giving all of the melodies and all of the kind of very memorable sequences that are scattered across this record room to breathe amidst the chaos. It also creates a more, I think, a stronger overall impact and a stronger overall aggression than the band have been able to achieve previously. The album starts off with Sepulchre of Shattered Saints, and right as soon as this record or as soon as the song kind of gets past its initial sort of atmosphere setting sequence, Verberus unleash an absolute tsunami of violent dissonance that hints at bands like Deathspell Omega and Aosoth, both bands that are favorites on Into the Necrosphere, before slowing down at the 3.5 minute mark for an altogether more restrained, though no less effective passage that serves as the perfect setup for the next full-bore assault. Adamantine, amidst transience, ups the atmospheric component of the band's sound considerably. It's the next song, and it kind of flows very nicely out of Sepulchre of Shattered Saints. It doesn't hold back on the violence, particularly as the song reaches its second half. And then the next song is a track called Severed Paragon, one of my favorites on the album. It serves up about 2 minutes worth of ulcerated style, clean guitar at its start, before breaking into one of the most urgent and one of the most memorable portions of the record. Every member of the band, Jamie St. Merat not least of them, is absolutely on point throughout the album, and as long as these tracks are, they feature enough standout moments to feel distinct from each other. Most importantly, they combine to instantly make you want to restart the album as soon as the final moments of the last track have run out. I feel like with all the incredible records coming out in 2022, this one may be flying under the radar a little bit, and kudos to Rick Eaglestone of Mayhem Radio for turning me onto it to begin with. But you can take both of our advice on this. Do not sleep on it. Adumbration of the Veiled Logos is a truly exceptional record, And I suspect it's one that's going to be spoken of in hushed and very reverent tones by everybody who chooses to spend time with it. I'm going to play a track that I spoke about just a few minutes ago, Severed Paragon, one of my favorites on the record. Here it is. And like I said, if this doesn't convince you, then I have serious concerns over the state of your hearing. Severed Paragon is the name of the song, the band Verberis, and the album is called Adumbration of the Veiled Logos. I had somebody the other day reach out to me and say that I should start a playlist on Spotify and kind of have a running update of that based on what I feature on the show. I think it's a great idea. I just need to get around to it. As some of you may have seen that watch this on YouTube, it took me a cool 135 episodes to finally do a channel intro. But I will definitely do the Spotify playlist. For now, though, make sure you go and check out Verberus on Bandcamp. And if you do buy yourself anything, make sure that they know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you, and tell them that in spite of the fact that Ulcerate rejected me, they're still welcome on the podcast at any point. Like I said, that record comes courtesy of Norma Evangelium Diaboli. I think they also put out the last Funeral Mist record. So another great label to look out for when it comes to pretty much anything that they put out, because these two records alone are a mark of some absolutely exceptional quality. Speaking of exceptional quality, it's time now for what some have called the greatest news rant segment in the history of the universe. All right, friends, we start on Metal Storm as usual. The first headline, Spirit Adrift reveal new track. I don't really know Spirit Adrift all that well. They look like fine, upstanding young men in that photo. It says here, Mass Formation Psychosis, the newest advanced single from Spirit Adrift's fifth album, 20 Centuries Gone, has premiered online in the form of an official music video created by Nick Hipper. Let's give it a whirl. There was a split second when that song was getting started where I thought, like, are we going to hear a cover of Tribute by that fucking Jack Black band? But when that main riff kicks in, I mean, I don't know whether it's because I don't have a huge amount of expectations for this, but I'm liking it. I think that riff sounds great. I like the groove that the drummer is ushering in there. I think that doesn't sound bad whatsoever. I'm starting to second guess this idea that I have propagated on this podcast, that I don't really like stoner music or like stoner metal or doom, because I seem to be playing an awful lot of it recently on Metal Storm, and I always seem to go, that's not bad. That's really surprised me. Druids was one band. Obviously this band, Sarg, a band that I played last week, which, I mean, that Sarg song is fucking fantastic. But yeah, I'm for sure not hating this. Those vocals are pretty cool as well. I think the production is spot on. It's thick, it's meaty. It sounds like it's got some real weight to it. Now, the main thing that's going to make or break the song, and maybe we'll listen a little further than what I would normally do when I do these first impressions, is going to be a kick-ass chorus. If there's a badass chorus, then this is going to be a superb song. If it's just going to kind of drift off into kind of proggy, sludgy, riff-o-rama, then it's not going to be bad. But will I feel compelled to spend an awful lot of time with 20 Centuries Gone when it comes out? Maybe less so. But let's listen. All right, I'll have to go back and properly listen to that song end to end to see whether there is a kind of nice apex to what they're hawking over there. But yeah, not bad. I like I said, I think I may have to put my hands up here and say I've been full of shit when it comes to saying that I don't really like Doom and stuff like that, because there's an awful lot of bands I've been playing, like I said, that I seem to enjoy. Okay, let's go on. So, Batushka, North American touring plan unveiled. I don't know whether this is fake Batushka, Fotushka, if you will. But either way, I prefer to refer to Batushka as the most overrated load of shit in all of black metal. I don't know why people loved that band as much as they did. I also don't know why people were in such a massive uproar. I know that the main dude from Batushka did his brothers dirty when he kind of swiped the name and did his own thing. But yeah, it's just never been a band that's done an awful lot for me. I've always felt like there are tons of bands that do that sort of thing way better. King's X, 3 sides of 1 album announced. Now, King's X is one of these bands where I don't think I have ever listened to a single King's X song end to end in my entire life. But as I rack my brain, I can also not think of a single instance where somebody did not speak, in anything but glowing terms about King's X. I've literally never heard someone say, hey, King's X sucks. I've only ever heard people say they're brilliant and super influential. So why I have let them pass me by, I don't know. But that is about to change right now. If Cave In, another band who was recommended to me, which you guys will recall a couple of weeks back, I listened to a song of theirs and was blown away. They could impress me, then who knows what King's X can do. It says in the article, King's X just announced 3 sides of 1 as the title of their upcoming 13th studio album, due for release on September the 2nd via Inside Out Music and Sony. It'll be their first full-length studio record since 2008's XV. The band also released Let It Rain as the lead single off their new album. So let us give Let It Rain a whirl. That is fucking excellent. That is seriously very, very good. Love the vocals, love the riff. That, you know, I was talking about a big chorus earlier. That song has it in spades. I don't know why, but as I was listening to the song, I, for some bizarre reason, was thinking about The Sopranos. I don't know what it is about the song that reminds me about The Sopranos. It certainly reminds me of driving, so maybe I was kind of connecting the intro on The Sopranos to that, but that is very cool. It says here, bassist and vocalist Doug Pinnick comments, when I think of it, King's X feels like a couple of old best friends coming together, shooting the shit and having a good time. It's instinctual. When I would listen to demo tapes of Jerry and Ty for the record, it would give me a great perspective on how blessed I am to be in King's X. What they did on Three Sides of One sounded so good, for as familiar as it is, it's like I'm in a new band. Guitarist Ty Tabor adds, this time we sat around, listened to each other's ideas, and would collectively say, let's work on that. It was the most enjoyable album I've personally ever recorded in my entire life, period. And drummer Jerry Gaskill concludes, I'll cherish what we did in my heart forever. Everything lined up perfectly. It is amazing when a band is like thoroughly enjoying themselves making a record. You really do hear it come out in a recording. And ditto. When somebody hates being in the studio with their bandmates, it can sometimes come across. Sometimes it actually translates into something pretty cool. I think depending on the musician. I know that Mike, as an example, despises the Grand Annihilation, the Tombs record that he did about probably 6-7 years ago. I personally absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. Is it the best Tombs record? No. But you're talking about something in a pretty meaty discography there. But for me, I love it. I think it's a superb record. Getting back to this song, though, this to me is sensational. I really, really like it. Let's give it another minute or so.
Got this anxious feeling. This runaway train ain't slowing down. Hear it, even though the world has got too loud. Now the prophet of doom is shouting something about a thief in the night. Oh, I have this question: what if the truth was a lie? So let it rain. Oh, to watch the fear.
I've just looked up King's X on Wikipedia, and I've seen something completely mind-blowing. And I don't know whether this is a mistake. Obviously, Wikipedia you need to take with a grain of salt. But it says that Douglas Theodore Pinnick, sometimes known as Doug Pinnick or simply Doug, is an American musician best known as the bass guitarist, songwriter, and co-lead vocalist for the hard rock and progressive metal band King's X. It lists his age here as 71, which is fucking insane. 71 and you're making music that sounds like that. Alan Averill did a really, really good episode this past Friday where he was talking about singing, and he was talking about singing technique, performance, and then he touched on something that I've pondered a lot, and I think a lot of you have done as well. How musicians age, or actually how singers age in particular. Some of the shade thrown the way of folks like John Bon Jovi about his recent performances, and whether or not some people should carry on, whether or not it's fair to throw criticism at them, whatever the case may be. I'll tell you what, I don't know how much studio trickery was used to get that voice there. It doesn't sound to me like there was a lot, but Jesus Christ, if you're 71 years old and you're making music like that, hats off to you. My dad is 71. I can tell you right now, he's not doing anything that good. Yeah, superb. That episode, by the way, really is excellent. I think Alan has been on a bit of a roll again recently. I do exchange messages with him from time to time, and I'm going to have him back on the podcast if I can at some point reasonably soon, I hope. He did say he's kind of consciously moved away a little bit from the politics because he felt that people were getting a bit fatigued by it, but he's just one of those dudes where, generally speaking, most of what he talks about is pretty fascinating to me anyway. But I think the question about singers is something that I've pondered an awful lot as you watch new videos by Metallica, Guns N' Roses, bands you grew up with. One thing that I've got to say, old Axel is starting to sound increasingly like Herbert the Pervert off of Family Guy. And it's a sad thing to see because, I mean, you know, he had such an incredible, such a distinct voice as a young'un. But you can for sure see the difference in generations. You know, there was a generation, the one that Guns N' Roses, Metallica, etc. came from, where those guys didn't have access to vocal coaches and things like that for the style of their singing, clearly didn't take a huge amount of care for their voice. You know, combine that with some hard living, and with some of them, it is for sure caught up. Some people, though, sound fantastic. The names that come to mind, Glenn Danzig, he sometimes has an off day when you see them live, but certainly when I saw Danzig live back in, I think this was 2018, they did all the How the Gods Kill, and he sounded fantastic. Katie also spoke to me over the weekend and said that she had seen him and said that he was really, really good. Phil Anselmo had a patch where his voice was sounding atrocious. But then I saw they posted a down show. In fact, I actually spoke about it on last week's news. I subsequently went back and I watched that show, and he sounds phenomenal. As a matter of fact, if you go and you listen to that Ace of Spades cover that he's done recently with what's his face, Nick Olivieri of Mondo Generator, and formerly of Queens of the Stone Age, and you listen to how he sounds there, he's top of his game right now. Really, really good. So I don't know whether those guys have gone and they've gotten voice lessons or whatever the case may be, but that's a bit of a tangent and a side note. But anyways, let me know if you guys are into King's X. Let me know what records I should check out if I want to dig into this band's back catalogue, because I am very, very impressed by that song. That's cool driving music, and I like me some driving music. I like driving generally. What I don't like is the fact that in this country, the Secretary of Transport recently referred to driving as, or owning a car as, so last century. So I would assume that she will be first in line to give up her car, although being part of the elite upper crust, that is very unlikely to happen. Anyways, let's move on. Dreadnought detail new record. Colorado progressive metal band Dreadnought have announced their new album The Endless to be released on August the 26th through Profound Law Records. Produced, mixed and mastered by Pete DeBoer at world famous studios. Listen now to the first single, Midnight Moon. I don't know Dreadnought. Normally that may have caught a miss for me because progressive metal can be very often devolve into wank metal. But it is Profound Law, so Profound Law immediately gets my interest peaked. Let's hear the first song off of The Endless, Midnight Moon. I must admit, that is definitely not the kind of music I would normally listen to, but I think that's quite cool. I think that keyboard that's kind of joining with a clean guitar at the beginning, I think that sounds very cool. I think that that woman's voice sounds very good as well. And as I was listening to it, I was trying to think, who does she remind me of? And I was going through, Chelsea Wolfe, Emma Ruth Rundle, the lady, I can't remember her name, the woman from Portishead, and then it suddenly struck me. I don't know if any of you guys know of this this project, but there was a project that featured Dan the Automator, Mike Patton, which everyone should know, and a woman called Jennifer Charles. Jennifer Charles was also the vocalist in a band called Elysian Fields, which did a couple of very, very good records. Love Edge was fantastic. They did one record called Music to Make Love to Your Old Lady by, and without divulging too much detail, it has come in mighty handy in my personal life quite a few times over the years. But anyways, that woman sounds exactly like Jennifer Charles. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Jennifer Charles, but it's like I said, I definitely don't mind this at all. I think it sounds very interesting. Let's listen to some more. That also sounds very cool. I'm not as big of a fan of the second voice. So when the female vocal bit is there's kind of a voice, a very lilting voice trying to harmonize over it. I don't really like that much. That sounds a bit, poncy in my opinion. So I would have preferred that not be there. I like the kind of main female vocal line, but then when that heavy bit kicks in, I think that's very cool. This could so easily be something that is shit, but kudos to this band. As I said, I don't know them at all, but they have done a great job of taking a formula which, frankly speaking, in years gone by, I've not been a fan of, and actually making it sound not bad at all. Next up, we've got Darkane, who premiere the lyric video for the Quintessence of Evil. Today is the official release day of Darkane's Inhuman Spirits record. This article went up on the 24th of June. To celebrate the occasion, the Swedes premiere a brand new lyric video for one of the tracks called The Quintessence of Evil. Early Darkane, I did quite like. I've seen Darkane live once, and I must confess I was very impressed. There was I think I've spoken about the show on the podcast years back. My friend Lo and I was there to actually interview the Darkane guys. I spoke to, I think, the guitarist, and then stayed for the show afterwards. Watched Disbelief, then saw Darkane, and then saw Death Angel, and all three bands were, fantastic. So I've not kept up with Darkane's music since, because I think what I did find was they're best enjoyed on stage. But I'm certainly not averse to hearing what they have concocted on their new record. So let's find out. So it's the first record I believe that they have done in 9 years. So I get that opening riff. I would assume, I don't know the running order on the record, but I would assume that this is maybe the first song on the album. It would make sense if it is, because you'd have, they maybe they want to announce that they're back. So I get that. I still don't really like it though. It sounds very anodyne to me. Like there's not really anything about it that's connecting with me in any way. It's well produced and all that sort of thing, but it sounds like the sort of thing that may have been impressive had this been 2005, but in 2022 less so. The lyrics are, to me, at least so far, just a load of throwaway sentences tossed together. They're not as bad as some of the stuff that I've seen and some of the things that I've mocked and made fun of on this segment. But they're better than Amon Amarth's Get in the Ring, put it that way. But then there's very few things that are worse than that. But let's see what the song ends up developing into. Pass. Not a hard pass, but a pass all the same. It's not shit, but it's just not really my bag. Krishun Sworn Enemies single premieres. I shan't dare to listen to this because the last Krishun song that I did a react for got me a block on, a copyright block on YouTube, so not going to bother because then there's the hassle of having to go back and cut that out, and then the video is delayed, and the crowds, the mobs are furious at me saying, we can't survive without our dose of Into the Necrosphere first thing in the morning. I mean, I never have that problem, obviously, on any of the podcasting services like Spotify and things like that, but YouTube tends to be a little bit more finicky with that sort of thing, which is also why you had the issue last week with the Heathen Deity episode, and I only ended up posting that on the Wednesday because the Morbid Angel song that I finished off the record with got me a worldwide copyright block as well. But either way, Krishun is great. I can tell you right now what that song sounds like. Fast, aggressive, badass. Like everything that they have done. All right. Let's move on. Megadeth, upcoming album detailed, first single out. Another song I'm not going to bother trying to listen to because I'm 100% sure I'll get another block. I have listened to it, however, so I can at least tell you what I think of it. But before I do, let's just read the little preamble they've got here. After a very long wait, Megadeth finally released their first song from the upcoming album, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead, which will land in stores on September the 2nd. The new track is called We'll Be Back. The album cover, if you've not seen it yet, looks like a video game circa 2001. It's Vic Rattlehead in what seems to be cowboy garb, stood before a village that has been burnt to the ground. Pretty typical Megadeth stuff. The song is also pretty typical Megadeth stuff. A lot of money, clearly, for that music video. It's some, sort of military malarkey. It's well shot. It looks really good. The song itself is, well played in typical Megadeth style. But I feel with a lot of these bands, like these high-profile bands like Megadeth, Metallica, that last Anthrax record to me was on a par with that also. There's a distinct difference between people that actually still have a desire and a hunger to play this kind of music, example being Exodus, Testament as well, and bands who are doing it because they feel that's what is expected of them. And so they do those songs, or they do this style of music, but it's not really what comes naturally to them. That's exactly the impression that I got from this song. It reminded me in many, many ways of the last Metallica record, Hardwired to Self-Destruct, in particular the first song of Hardwired to Self-Destruct, which, like, I'm sure they didn't do it. I know with Death Magnetic, they did actually use a PR company to do focus groups with Metallica fans on what style of music they should be making, which I just think is, I mean, like, creatively, it's offensive. But anyway, I don't think they did that with Hardwired to Self-Destruct, but with that song, there was like a really palpable sense to me that they are doing this because they think this is what fans of Metallica want to hear. And so even though it's not something that's coming, from some deep, buried, dark place, which is where all the best music comes from, this is what they're going to put out. Same deal with Megadeth. You can hear that Mustaine's not down with this music anymore, or at least not this style of music. I might be wrong, and I know Megadeth fans the world over will probably be creaming their little shorts about it. At least, so everything I've seen so far on the socials suggests that everyone loves this, but it's not for me. I think the last truly great Megadeth record is, as a matter of fact, maybe the one and only truly great Megadeth record, in my opinion, is Rust in Peace. Beyond that, they've had their moments, but they have also put out a lot more crap than they've put out anything good. That's just my thoughts. I might be wrong, but you compare the big four to kind of the second rung. Speaking in the sense of how kind of the mainstream press and the industry would see them. The big four versus Exodus, Testament, Death Angel. Who else could you toss into that? Maybe Creator, but their last record is atrocious also. But those first three bands I just mentioned now, they mop the floor. In the last 2 decades, they've mopped the floor with anything that the big four have put together, including Slayer. My view has been, I've spoken about this on Twitter, I've spoken about it in the show, you can combine all of the songs that Slayer recorded, or you can combine, all the records that Slayer recorded after Divine Intervention, and you'd come up with, if you were truly critical and you held the music to a standard set by records like Seasons in the Abyss, South of Heaven, Rain and Blood, etc., you would come up with one solid 11-track record. The rest is fucking total bullshit. So, yawn to Megadeth. Anyways, let's move on. Is there anything else here that is worth listening to? Catatonia signed worldwide deal with Napalm Records. Hurrah. Last good thing they made was the Discouraged Ones. They've not done anything good since then. Altars launch new track. Australian death metal trio Altars is premiering Luminous Jar, the third and final preview track from Ascetic Reflection record. Jesus Christ, man. Do people not ever proofread any of the stuff that they submit to Metal Storm before it drops July 8th through Everlasting Spew Records? Don't know Everlasting Spew Records, but I do know that I like me some Australian extreme music. And so, much like Profound Lore, who I mentioned earlier, when I see a band is from Australia, I'm generally almost always interested in hearing at least a song. But it says here, comments the band, some of you may recognize the beginning of the track from the studio footage we released in April. You can now complete listening to the song via the link below. The title of this track is based on the Pandora's Box mythology, which was incorrectly translated by Erasmus in the 16th century. The box was in fact a large jar or pithos used for a range of general purposes as well as burials. The song is about succumbing into temptation and staring knowingly into the abyss. So let's stare into Altar's Abyss by way of Luminous Jar. So that song could very easily have just been another kind of throwaway, Morbid Angel stroke Hate Eternal influence death metal band, right up into that discordant kind of doomy atmospheric part that's just kicked in around the 1 minute mark. That definitely elevates things substantially. I like the production. And certainly from a speed perspective and a technical perspective, these boys don't fuck around. But it's good that they just sort of broke that up a little bit. There's bands that, there's some bands that do it extremely well, right? That can do that blasting, from start to finish, and it's excellent. But like the truly great bands are bands that understand the need for the dynamics, the highs, the lows, the peaks, the troughs. I think those guys get it. Excellent. I think that's very cool. I think those vocals sound fucking grim. You know what that reminds me of a little bit? Grave Miasma, who are themselves a absolutely superb band. I'll tell you another band that it reminds me of, Lucifer. So very cool stuff. I was looking on my phone as I was listening to that. This is the first song or first record I think they're releasing in 9 years, same as Darkane. Unlike Darkane, their return is very welcome. So, good stuff there by Altars. Let's move on now to the rock music's guide to, the rock world's, the Democrats' guide, to rock music. We knew that there was going to be a couple of spicy hot takes on the Roe v. Wade repeal. I will say, as I've said before on this podcast, I think it's worth me saying because I think it's a well-known fact that I'm a reasonably conservative guy when it comes particularly to fiscal matters. However, when it comes to abortion, I'm pretty strongly pro-choice, and the reason for that is not just because I think that women bear a disproportionate burden when it comes to child, having kids and things like that, and frankly, child rearing. Versus men, but for me it's kind of a matter of facing reality or looking reality in the face. I've seen firsthand how dysfunctional and how broken the adoption and the fostering system is in the UK, and I'm pretty confident it would be the same in most Western countries, definitely so in the States. Once again, the government getting involved in something and misadministering it to a point where many of the children that are in those systems come out irretrievably scarred and damaged mentally. So I feel like the world does not benefit from more unwanted children being foisted into that system, and so therefore I think as much as it's not a pleasant thing whatsoever. I think anybody that says that it is, and also I've known people that had abortions. I've spoken to women who've had abortions firsthand. They've told me that it was an absolutely horrific experience. As much as it's not a pleasant experience, and there's nothing that's nice about it, it's still something that's necessary. And so anyway, therefore I am for sure pro-choice. Now, there are silver linings to the Roe v. Wade repeal. One of those silver linings is that Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong says he's renouncing his U.S. citizenship. The article here reads, Green Day's Billy Joe Armstrong says that he is renouncing his American citizenship following the Supreme Court's decision to repeal Roe v. Wade. During the band's concert on Friday, June 24th in London, United Kingdom, Armstrong told the audience, "Fuck America! I'm fucking renouncing my citizenship! I'm fucking coming here! There's just too much fucking stupid in the world to go back to that miserable fucking excuse for a country!" He added, "Oh, I'm not kidding. You're going to get a lot of me in the coming days." Now, if all of the guys from The Offspring, as well as Sebastian Bach, Tommy Lee, maybe Dee Snider, and others of their ilk could join in, ideally don't come here because we've got enough fucking morons living in this country already, but go somewhere else, leave America. I mean, I would certainly say the American population will benefit from that significantly. On a more serious note, I mean, I'll touch on how entitled and pathetic I think that comment actually is in a second. What I will say is, as much as I am pro-choice, the staunchest opposition to this. In fact, actually, let me backtrack first, and let me just give let me just throw some shade the way of the right here as well, because I think this is in many ways, shown up the hypocrisy of the Republicans as well, because they bleat about, rightly so, about inflation, crime, the rising price of gas, Biden's incompetence, which is staggering. You're now at a point where he's having to have cue cards telling him what to do in a room. The fact that they're sleepwalking into a recession, potentially even sleepwalking into a shooting war with Russia. I mean, there are so many things that should be getting these people's attention, that they talk about and act like it's important to them. But when it comes to actually doing something about it, this is the fucking rubbish that they decide, or this is the hill that they choose to die on. So it shows that much of what they say is bullshit. And it kind of comes back to, I think Naz and I spoke about it, at a macro level, for the last 3 decades, if not more, the trend, no matter who has been in the White House, has always been bad, and that has been true whether it has been Obama, Trump, Reagan. I mean, Reagan, who I liked, H.W. Bush, W. Bush, so it goes on. So you kind of look at it and go, well, they're all equally fucking useless. But for the right to kind of go on about overturning adoption like this, I think it shows two things. One, they're out of touch with average Americans. I highly doubt the average American is thrashing around, no matter how fucking conservative you are. I doubt very much the average conservative American thrashes about at night thinking, oh God, what if another person has an abortion? They're worried about the exact same thing as everybody else. How am I going to pay my rent? Why are groceries so fucking expensive? How am I going to pay for my kids' college education? Am I going to be able to afford my insulin shots that I am now having to have because of my fucking terrible diet? So they're out of touch there. The other thing is, this, from my perspective, is no different to the woke garbage that the fringes of the left busy themselves with. I mean, if you think about it, is it any more banal in the grand scheme of things, if I just, based on the stuff that I just mentioned now, is it any more banal than, gender neutral toilets and all this other fucking muck? So that's my view on that. I mean, as I said, I think it's stupid and it's fucking pathetic. But I do have to say, the more vociferous elements of the opposition aren't necessarily conducting themselves with the greatest of trying to find the right word here. They're not distinguishing themselves by the opposition that they're putting into this. Exhibit A.
My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! My choice! He's touching me. He's touching me.
Now, there is no fucking way that woman's going to have a choice to sleep with any but the most inebriated man on the face of the earth. So for her to even ponder the idea that she could be pregnant, or that she could ever get pregnant by anything other than it's fucking sleep rape. I have no idea. By which I mean her raping some dude while he's asleep. So, the main thing about it is that frightens me is that person is walking around untethered, and they're kind of moving around in a functioning society of sane people, there's no sanity there. That is serious fucking mental illness at work. But it pales in in comparison to Exhibit B, which I play for you now. This woman filmed herself and obviously put this out. Was happy to put it out into the public square, having a temper tantrum over the overturn of Roe v. Wade. In anticipation of her quote-unquote spontaneous demonstration, she even has knee pads on. Behold the most horrifying 13 seconds that you are going to see in, I would say in 2022, but let's be honest. I said right at the start of the year, it's going to get fucking crazy. This may just be the tip of the iceberg, but watch this. Now, if anyone here is a parent, my question is this: Would you leave your kids in the trust of that fucking lunatic? Jesus Christ! It's just it's mind blowing to me. Absolutely fucking mind blowing. And again, like I said, I mean, you know, I agree that you know I'm strongly in support of pro-choice, but maybe I'm missing something here. But with the power being divested to the states, it means that my understanding is I think there's 13 states that are making it immediately illegal. There are another 13, I think, in total that are likely to make it illegal now as well. So that means there's 26 other states, I think 26 other states, where it is still legal to have an abortion. And if you hold on to democracy as as a successful system, and many of these people will talk about how they need to fight to defend democracy, etc. So if you believe in the idea of democracy, then surely you believe that, particularly with the midterms coming, the state elected officials are going to reflect the will of the people. So therefore, if you believe strongly, if you're strongly pro-choice, and if that's one of the highest priorities for you as far as who you vote for ideologically, then you vote for the person that that aligns to your values. And if that person gets into office, then surely abortion would be made legal in the state that you're in. If not, move. And to people that turn around and say, "Oh, it's moving is easier said than done," I'm going to respectfully call bullshit on that when it comes to North America, because there are, by my count, no, actually not by my count, by official counts, I think there's something like 11 million unfilled jobs in North America. So I think you can reasonably easily apply for a job somewhere else in a state that aligns with your values, and you can move there. And for those that don't have jobs, the social safety net in places like California, from my understanding, is far better than it is in in places like Texas. So that again. I think, as much as it would have been best for Roe v. Wade not to be overturned, and as much as, frankly, looking at this fucking imbecile, I think retroactive abortions are something that we should strongly be considering. At the end of the day, the one thing that I would like to say, and I know the vast majority of people that watch this podcast are from America, so I know who I'm talking to here. You guys are still lucky in the sense that at the very least there's a distinction between the states. Like the federal government, I believe they can pass laws that affect everybody, but the majority of the power is still in the hands of the states. We have to put up with the fucking incompetence of Boris Johnson and his cronies. Whether I live in Birmingham or Manchester or Leeds or London, it doesn't matter where, their staggering, sniveling incompetence is 100% a cloud above my head 24/7. And I think, going back to what Billy Armstrong said, it's I often look at people that talk about America that way, and I go, don't you realize what you have in that country? That country has got its problems, and I despise the Biden administration. I despise a lot of the woke stuff that come out of the country, but at the same time, it's a fucking massive country. You can move somewhere where you're not impacted by any of that nonsense. If I lived there, I certainly would have lived in a state like Florida. but you still have every single, geopolitical and strategic advantage going. I mean, it's the country that is best positioned for whatever is coming next. There's a lot of fucking great people there, and there's a lot of great things still in that country. There's a lot of things worth cherishing and worth being thankful for. I mean, Jesus Christ, you think about it from a, if we get sort of existential here, you think about it from a kind of cosmic lottery perspective. Would you rather have lived in Venezuela or anywhere in Africa? Frankly, at the rate things are going, anywhere in Europe. Most of Europe is a fucking shambles. Which, again, it's ironic to me that you have people in Europe screaming about Roe v. Wade, and then you go to yourself, but the laws in Europe about abortion have been stricter than America for the longest time, and you're acting like it's, an affront to you personally. I mean, how much of a fucking sheep are you? I think the thing that I think is the most egregious about this whole business is the number of people, and this actually is what hurt my heart the most. So I saw, and I'm pretty sure that it is further down the track on Blabbermouth. I saw in fact, let's see if we can find it. I saw a series of tweets where people were talking about, where rockers, quote unquote, were talking about, the Roe v. Wade repeal and blah blah blah, and what that meant. And the thing that hurt my heart the most was two tweets by one of my favorite guitarists from a band I've mentioned on this very podcast, Testament, Alex Skolnick, proving in two tweets that he not only bases his entire news consumption on the left-wing equivalent of Sean Hannity, who is a fucking imbecile, that being, in his case, Rachel Maddow, but he believes every single word that she says, and then he tacitly does what I've started to notice an awful lot of people do recently, and I think that's the real fucking danger, is there's this kind of flirtation with war. Jimmy Dore did a really good thing on this on his show last week, where he was talking about Max Boot, talking about war in the Ukraine, and how it's not the Ukraine's war, it's America's war, and it's like, whether globally or domestically, there seems to be a lot of people, and this it got worse over COVID, I feel. But there's a lot of people that seem to kind of be romanticizing and getting, moist around the frothy around the loins about war, even though they don't overtly come out and say it. One of the biggest imbeciles to ever roam the face of the earth, Carlos Maza of Vox News, he posted a tweet saying that, violence has always been the language of protest. It's time we start speaking that language. You think to yourself, well, I'm pretty confident that as you encourage people to burn down buildings and businesses like you did, 2 summers ago, will your neighborhood be impacted by this? Very unlikely. I mean, most of these Antifa fucking idiots who are, currently rioting in Los Angeles and Portland and places like that, I'm pretty sure they're not rioting in their own neighborhoods. So the target they burn down in, statistically most likely to be a neighborhood where there are folks who are underrepresented or people that have been previously disadvantaged, none of that stuff is really going to affect them. They cause trouble, burn down shit, leave the place in a complete tatters, and then they fuck off. Alex Skolnick, if there is a civil war in America, is he going to be on the front lines taking the bullets? I fucking highly doubt that. So I guess my point is, and I know I'm going on a bit of a ramble here, there's an awful lot about America that is fucking awesome. And I say that as an outsider who grew up loving and admiring America and wanting desperately to live there, and knowing I will most likely never be able to do so. But I still can look at it and still say, one, I know an awful lot of fucking badass people in that place. Some of the best people I've ever met. Some of the best music I've ever met, or listened to, sorry. Some of the best movies I've ever watched. It's all from America, and there's still a lot going for it. Don't let these fucking idiots drag you down into this low-resolution, emotionally ungoverned way of thinking about stuff. The midterms are coming up. Vote for who you want to vote for. Vote for who aligns to your ideology most. No politician's ever going to be 100% aligned to what you think, but, vote for who's closest to the way you think, or move to the state that's best aligned to you, because at least you still have that privilege and that opportunity to do so. And besides that, just tune out a lot of this other fucking rubbish, because that is ultimately what it is. Like I said, these neighborhoods getting torched and, places getting looted and burned, it doesn't affect those people. And it also doesn't affect those 5 simpletons in the Supreme Court. Do you think that Brett Kavanaugh, weeps himself to sleep because a Target was burned down in Compton? I fucking highly doubt it. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. I don't want to be one of those people that, is talking about abortions in a country where I don't even live. But I thought that I would at least mention it. And since we are on a bit of a downer, although I hope I kind of weaved in a bit of hope in the back end there, I did want to start to include something a little different on my news rant every week, and that is a compilation of some of the most insane headlines that I could find over the course of the last week. I don't actually have a means, I think, to put them on screen, but I'm just going to read them for you guys anyway. It's fucking hysterical shit, so it'll be a nice way to kind of wrap this up. So, headline from the Daily Mail, June 16th, 2022. How to have sex with monkeypox. The CDC releases a bizarre guide telling patients to keep their clothes on or masturbate 6 feet from their partner if the urge arises while infected. Next headline. This is from, this was from March 2, 2022. I kind of download these as I see them, but anyway. Florida man blames Putin for why he was speeding, body cam footage shows. The subtext reads, the driver said he was rushing home to find out what Putin was planning. From the Metro on June 18th, 2022, male blood donor turned away from clinic for refusing to say if he's pregnant. If you see what the fucking dude looks like, I mean, there is no mistaking a 53-year-old British man. Anyways. CNBC from June 19th, 2022. I can't win in this market. Why LGBTQ homebuyers say mortgage rates are hitting them especially hard. This is from 25th of May, 2022. Make womb for breakfast. Uterus-shaped cereal aims to normalize conversations about periods at the breakfast table. And then the final one, which is so fucking stupid. It's incredible. From the Washington Post. Yes, kink belongs at Pride, and I want my kids to see it. And on that note, friends, I am wrapping up the news for this week. And with that, folks, episode 136 of Into the Necrosphere is in the books. Thank you very much if you have stuck it out all the way to the very end. Thank you so much to Matt Wilcock for coming on the show. Make sure, as I said, that you check out From the Cave to the Grave by Werewolves if you have not done so already. I would say if we did a statistical analysis, a very, very, very small percentage of people that listen to this podcast regularly haven't done so. But just in case, also make sure you check out Verberus. And then come back next week where guest will be, or my guest will be announced at some point in the next couple of days. I've had a absolutely insane couple of days as far as being busy at work is concerned. And normally I try and have kind of 2-3 episodes in the bank at any given time. But it sort of went off the rails a little bit. So I'm still fishing for guests, but I'm sure I'll find one. If not, who knows? You might get yourself a full 2-hour news rant. One thing I've also thought about doing at some point, and maybe you guys can let me know if you like this idea or not. A couple of folks suggested that I do a live Q&A on YouTube at some point. I'm up for doing it. I just don't want to sit there like fucking Johnny No Mates, and have one person come on or have 2 people come on. So if people are interested in that idea, for sure let me know. I'm happy to get it set up at some point. I've never done one before, but I think it'll be fun to be able to connect with folks that listen to the podcast regularly. I'm going to play out right now with, in my opinion, one of the coolest songs of the noughties. I spoke about this record with, I think, the Heathen Deity guys, and I also had actually my very first appearance on Everything Went Black with Mike Hill was to talk about this album. The album in question, of course, Ad Majorem Satanas Gloriam by Gorgoroth. I have said on many occasions, I think this is a record that signaled a sea shift in the direction that black metal was going in, and in my opinion changed it significantly for the better, as proven by my last track of the week. This is a song called Exit, which I play as I make my exit. Wherever it is that you are, whatever it is you're doing, stay safe, stay healthy. I will see you bad motherfuckers again next week. Peace!